What's going on, people? Welcome to Live Palace News. It is Monday, the 21st of July. We're still waiting to hear about what's going to be happening with our future in either Conference League or Europa League. That hasn't been settled yet. However, transfer business is still ongoing despite it being slow for Palace. The latest is Rak-Sakyi, which we're not going to spend a lot of time on, but also talk about potential departures from the football club this summer. Who could be leaving? How much are they worth? And also potential incomings as well. As always, thank you for the previous 2 or 3 shows that we've been doing since we come back. We've hit over 150 likes on all of them. So even if you're watching on replay, please hit the like button. It helps us grow the channel. That's all I ask for. And get involved in the live comment section or the comment section down below if you are watching on replay. Nick, long time. Well, it feels like a long time anyways. I think this is your first since the season review show you've done.
Season review, yeah.
Yeah, season review. How you been?
It's been 9 weeks, hasn't it, since the cup final?
Yeah.
It seems like years ago. Yeah, I've been good. I've just been working, finished today, off on my holidays tomorrow, hoping that I can keep up with all the news that's going on now that you're back on the scene. I've been looking at your Instagram. You've been to some crazy places, man.
Oh, I haven't been that crazy places. I've only went Mexico. Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed it. It's better than over here. I mean, you wouldn't think we're in middle of summer. The way it's been so grey and dark, and it's 8 p.m. But I guess some people enjoy this weather. But nah, I had an enjoyable weekend as well. So I'm tired from that. But what have you made of all the Palace drama? Have you been following it as much? Have you been taking a break? Because as you said, it's been a long time since we've won the FA Cup. But the noise ever since then has been about this European stuff, which for me, it hasn't taken the joy away, but we haven't really been able to digest it as we should have, as we deserve, I guess.
Yeah, it was weird how it kind of unraveled, wasn't it? Because at first, I mean, we know that John Textor said, "Oh shit," as soon as we picked up the trophy and realised that we might have a problem for Europe, but it didn't hit us ordinary fans until it kind of became a little bit of a rumour, and then suddenly it was more than a rumour, and the next thing you know, we've got people on Blue Sky and Twitter putting out spreadsheets for our different permutations if we're in conference or if we're in the Europa League. So that's been the main kind of worry that I've had. I know we've got a couple of players in whose names escape me at the moment. I'm sure you'll fill me in on that, but we just kind of seem in a complete and utter limbo for what we do next until we get the UEFA thing sorted out.
Yeah, I think we've done a show, me, Lou, and Mark. I think it was on Friday night. I can't even remember. Was it Saturday? And we kind of spoke about it then. And there was actually a bit of conversation going on, I think, on Twitter, X, about our business. Some people saying it's not good enough. So far, it doesn't matter. We're still going to be playing Europe. Other people, like myself, saying it's hard to plan when you don't know what competition you're playing in. What's your stance on it?
I think it's difficult to plan when you don't know what competition you're going to be in, because undoubtedly UEFA League is going to be a lot harder than Conference League. That would be my preferred UEFA League, although people have spoken about the Conference League being a so-called easier win and we'll be seeded, so we'll be kept away from the likes of Sampdoria. But it's a bit weird because I know when we're looking at players and buying players, quite often you're more than one season ahead of who you're going to bring in. Yeah, I'm sure that Steve and Co are looking at players they want to bring in at the end of the upcoming season to fill out gaps where contracts run out and people get too old. So it's really difficult because these targets, would they have had UEFA in their mind? Will they come anyway? Have we got the only target that we were after, the 2 targets, because now we've got the goalkeeper as well? Or is there stalling because players want to know which competition they're going to be playing in? Likewise, are there players that might be withholding leaving because, UEFA potentially means season after the next one we could be in The Champions League, yes, everybody take the piss. I'm kind of getting a bit ahead of myself there, but
that's what Steve Parish suggested as well. Though it's like this is a big thing for the football club because the competition that we're playing in could change the football club and what's coming up ahead for us for a very long time. If we've done well in the Europa League, as I mentioned, there is that shout, which will be absolutely incredible. But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no. It's that's kind of where I was coming from anyway. So I think that's I listened to the rest of this football podcast last week with Steve, but they've dropped a bollock as well. So, you know, I don't think we can apportion blame to one person or one thing, but there's the circumstances have just kind of gone against us, haven't they?
Did you see the podcast that the UEFA president was on? It was going around on Twitter a bit about him talking about the multi-club ownership models, and he basically admitted it. I wish I could find it. I'm going to try to find it and see if
I have heard it, where he said, yeah, there are multi-club models, but we can't really pin them down. And actually,
you know who they are, and like we kind of put a blind eye to it.
Yeah,
that's what they've done. Yeah. So
is that Infantino that said that?
No. It was Chefrin, I think that's how you pronounce the name, the UEFA president. So no, that Infantino's a FIFA. So he admitted it on a podcast a few years ago that you can see that there's multi-club ownership models there. I don't want to mention names, but I want to actually find the clip, and I'll try to find the clip as the show goes on and play it on here. But I mean, hopefully by the end of this week, we find out our future. As I said on previous streams, I think it's on August the 4th, the Conference League draw. So it has to be before then. So, I mean, that's in 2 weeks' time, not next week, Monday, the Monday after. But I'm not as hopeful. I've asked this question to everyone that's been on here. I've asked it Lou, Mark, and also the chat. But what's your stance on it? Do you think it'll get overturned by CAS?
When you look at all the evidence and the things that have happened, surely it can't stand up, this ban. Texton's not even in the club anymore. You've got Red Bull Leipzig, Red Bull Salzburg, and somehow they're not part of the same organisation. It stinks, dear.
Yeah.
It bloody stinks. Now, yes, I do agree we could possibly win the conference, and then that would be our way into the Europa. But it's BTEC, isn't it, the conference compared to UEFA? You get it's money for the club for actually getting some more moolas in, so we can actually build this stand, because you know that's fallen by the wayside. Wasn't that supposed to be happening this summer? The first ground being dug. Haven't seen anything about that, so
that's a good shot. You know, I forgot about that totally. About the new stand, potentially the work starting this summer. It might be in September. I don't even know when it's meant to start, but yeah, that's been in the back of everyone's minds for the time being while this is going on. But in terms of business, as I asked you, where I stand with it is I normally would get onto the club about late business and getting in players early based on what Glasner said. However, I am on their side in this case because yes, there are some players that would be happy playing Europa League and Conference League, but there is a prize money difference between the two competitions. Europa League, you can attract better players and also get more money. So if we have an option of, let's say, we're targeting, I don't know, we have 5 players on our shortlist, right, for centre-backs, and there's a centre-back that we prefer more, but then if we get a Europa League, then it would be in our budget because of the money that we'll be getting in from participating in Europa League. Then I'd rather wait for another week or so and get the better player that the club thinks will contribute to us than rush in and buy a player right now because we don't know what competition we're in. So there is a difference between the Conference and Europa League, not just on the competition that we're playing. And yes, Europa League is stronger, but also in terms of revenue and what the club can bring in. So I'm pretty sure that goes into the planning. So it's very hard right now to say, oh, we've got players on shortlist, right? Let's go just grab the player. Well, there might be different levels of players for different budgets on that shortlist. So it's better to have things cleared out and then afterwards attack and make sure that we are best prepared for the upcoming season than to gamble and say, maybe we might lose this appeal. So we might be in the Conference League. So let's just go for the player that we value a bit less. Like, there's no point. Let everything clear out. Then we can move on. I'm not getting mad at the football club. I'm getting mad at UEFA because UEFA took such a long time to make a decision on this whole matter that we couldn't even appeal it in the first place. You can't appeal something until there's a decision made. All we heard is paper talk week in, week out for the past month and a half. And then when they finally came to a decision, well, it's only happened last week or 2 weeks ago, and then we get a written form of what they've actually said why we can't participate only last week. So I mean, mid-July. So it's all on UEFA, in my opinion. It's not as easy to say, oh, we must have target players, right? So why don't we just go get them? Well, there's different levels of players for different budgets, and I think that plays a part in a short list. So yeah, I think UEFA doing us dirty. But do you think there's a bit on the club as well? Because, or are you with my perspective in terms of let's just wait to see how it pans out so we know and attack the window like that?
Far be it from me to be all conspiratorial, but they've obviously seen that this has been a problem this year for the multi-club ownership. And when is a multi-club ownership not a multi-club ownership? Seemingly it's a multi-club ownership when one of the owners doesn't actually have a say in the running of a club. But if you've got two clubs where 98% are owned by the same person, then it's fine. Added to that, we have got all the confusion about who to buy, but it just stinks. And next season they're getting rid of that rule, so they've obviously seen a problem. And what galls me is you probably weren't even born when we were denied our place in the UEFA Cup when we finished third. The fact is that from different pods I've listened to and other things I've read, that it seems that UEFA kind of look down upon cup winners.
League position holds more merit to them.
Yeah, we used to have the Cup Winners' Cup, and part of the deal for switching over to the Europa League was that the winners of each country's cup would be able to go in. Now we can have the argument, and I'd say that winning an FA Cup is a much greater achievement than finishing 8th in League One, League 1, as they say in France.
Yeah, and the question has been asked to Paris a few times about whether if this was not Crystal Palace and let's say Man United or a Chelsea or one of these other clubs, would they be in the position that we're in right now? And he didn't answer, but you could see from his face, and I think we all know the answer to that as well. I don't think we'd be in this position right now, in honesty, because if you look at Manchester United and Nice, Sir Jim had shares in both clubs. I don't know if he still does now, but it's happened so many times. So it's
semi-speculate and moan until we get the decision. Until we see what the decision is, it's almost a point to try and discuss it until we know what the next stage is. The reason you've done the show today is about Rak-Sakyi possibly moving on to Rangers or Southampton, and I'm just trying to think of other players who we thought were really going to come good at Palace, and I wonder what the watchers think that didn't actually. And the biggest one for me is Johnny Williams, but
that's because of injuries. Well, you know what? Let's talk about that at the end of the show, but let's actually move on to Rak-Sakyi, because I don't want to just talk about Rak-Sakyi today. I want to talk a bit more about departures, because I do think there are certain players that need to leave the football club, and I think we knew about this even before all of the UEFA situation. So let's just quickly get that out of the way, and then afterwards we can talk about that and answer questions towards the end of the show. So the latest on Rak-Sakyi is that Southampton are leading the race for him. Of course, as we've covered last summer as well, Southampton were after him, but Palace weren't too keen on selling him. And that was this is according to the Football Insider, but also there's interest from Rangers, which I think came about last month or earlier this month as well. Before we get into Rak-Sakyi and the price tag and how much he's worth, your thoughts on Rak-Sakyi potentially leaving the club? Is it much of a shock to you? Because it ain't to me, to be fair.
No, as I just said, it's a shame, because he's one of those ones that you hope is going to come through, don't you? Like a Boué, for instance, who knows what's going to happen with him next. because we keep hearing lots of good things about these players, and we see the odd Palace TV when we see the under-21 games. They do well there, but having not seen him so much at Sheffield United, the first question that's got to come to mind is, why don't Sheffield United want to extend that loan or try and take it on? And is Sheffield United to Rangers actually a step down?
I think, of course, he had opportunities at Sheffield United, but that's a very good question. I'm not too sure why exactly they don't want to go after him. But Southampton has been one of those clubs that's been involved, as I mentioned, since last summer. So I think that's more of a bit more realistic target. And I think Rangers would be a bigger move for him, because I assume he would be playing in European competitions. The price like that I saw, as I've said for the last 3 streams, I haven't been on socials as much, was £10 million. And last time we were hearing about 15 to 20 million pounds. How much do you think Rak-Sakyi is worth?
Well, if we want to get rid, he's worth as much as anybody's going to pay for him, and 10, 15 million is fair enough, given that he hasn't actually been much of a first team player for us and has been out on loan. So it's not like they're wrestling away Eze from us, is it? So I think it's a decent price for the situation we're in at the moment.
Yeah, I think £10 million, 10 to 15, would be solid, especially if we have some sell-on clauses as well attached to that. But I was talking about this with Lou and Mark. Do you think it's the right time to sell Rak-Sakyi whilst playing in European competitions when we're talking about squad depth, especially in the number 10 positions? For me, I think the decision was kind of made in a similar way to what we saw with Henderson and Sam Johnston. As soon as Henderson came through the door, we already knew the plan was Sam Johnston to sell him on. And I feel like that decision was made in January, where when we brought in Eze through the door, I think Rak-Sakyi, realistically, I did see him getting sold this summer. I think that was our investment. But with the European competitions, do you think we should be selling him?
Do you remember going back a couple of seasons when, or maybe 3 seasons now, Vieira's first game in charge? We were stood next to each other at Stamford Bridge, weren't we? Finally, our first away game of the season, Chelsea.
Yeah, Vieira's first game.
And we were pony, and the only player that looked any good when he came on was Rak-Sakyi. Do you remember?
Yeah, he came on and he actually looked decent. And he always looks decent in pre-season as well.
And I know Sheffield United fans do think a lot of him, so it'd be a good backup. But until we know who's staying, who's going, yes, we've got Sarr, yes, we've got Eze, yes, we've got Abure, yes, we've almost got Munoz who can shove up the pitch if need be. So we've got plenty of players that can fill that position, and you've also got to think about the player. Where's the player stand in all of this? Does Jez want to be second fiddle at a club, or does he want to actually play first team football? Because football is a short career, and you know we've had other players like Will Hughes who knew he was coming in to not necessarily be the first pick, but has actually fought his way to becoming the first pick, albeit through injuries to Decor and Lerma of late, and Wharton in midfield. So he has got his chances, but because we've got those other players that can play in that position, is he better than them? And if he's not, then we need to just let him follow his career somewhere else rather than stifling it.
I think that's a good point as well to put out there. It's not just about us, it's about Rak-Sakyi as well. Maybe that's why he was linked to other clubs like Southampton last summer, because he just wants to have good game time. And I don't know if it could be offering him what he wants, because now we brought Eze through the door as well. Is he even second fiddle? Is he behind Sarr? I don't think he is. He could potentially be third option down the right-hand side. The left-hand side, I think, is Eze and Francois. The right-hand side, I guess, would be Sarr and Eze, and then maybe Rak-Sakyi is third. I'm not too sure, but there was also a point here about, does Glasner rate him? There could be that as well, because of course Glasner had the opportunity to look at him, and he's still being linked with a move away from the football club. So is coming from Kyle saying, does Glasner rate him? There was a lot of talk about him moving up to the first team before Glasner, but not a lot lately. He actually looked decent against Millwall, funny enough, in the pre-season game that I watched. But that could be the case as well. But as long as we're developing these academy players and selling them on for pure profit, I think that is good, especially if we have a sell-on clause as well, which a lot of clubs do put on, and I think Palace will do. We're still heading in the right direction, even if Rak-Sakyi's future is not at this football club. Either way, it's a gamble. We're basically putting our money on SA right now. If Rak-Sakyi was to leave, to say he's going to be a better player than Jez. But I've rated Jez from the moment he came on against Chelsea, even before then, to be fair. I thought he's been ready to be a squad player at Premier League level for a while, but it just somehow never has really worked out for him. I think he's technically gifted, especially down the right-hand side was footwork. But when it comes down to it, he really hasn't had that many opportunities. And Palace have had enough time to look at Jez. And clearly, with all these talks about Rangers and Southampton, he might not be in the plans. But let's see. I think European football makes it a bit more difficult. I mean, we need to be thinking about numbers.
Number one, 2 seasons ago, he was the player of the season at Charlton, but that was League Two. He's played in the Championship. He scored a few goals. Whether he's scored enough to warrant a good Championship player in that position. Sheffield United obviously aren't that impressed because they're not clamouring to keep him. So is he good enough to make the step up from the Championship to the Premier League? If Glasner doesn't think so, then Southampton obviously think he's good enough for the Championship with what they've seen of him with their scouts, and so do Rangers. And without wishing to upset any of our Scottish viewers, Rangers, I wasn't joking when I said, is it a step backwards from Sheffield United? Because they're really struggling at the moment, and Scotland's becoming a one-team country. So.
Yeah. Well, look, both clubs are playing in a level lower than Palace, right? So, in terms of domestically, especially, but Rangers, of course.
But Celtic beat Newcastle 4-0 quite comprehensively the other day.
Pre-season. I don't know. I didn't watch. I don't know who actually played in that. But yeah, when it comes to the Scottish League compared to the Premier League is 100% much stronger. But those clubs can potentially offer European football. But let's see what happens. With them. But I do think SA is right now where the club's head's at. I think that was the case when we signed him, because it was a bit of a weird signing in a similar position to Jez. But he might even not end up leaving, even though there's interest. He might end up staying. So only time will tell. In terms of other players now, what are we thinking? Edouard, Hamada, Rob Holding. There's a few players, right, that we need to get rid of before the window.
Holding's the obvious one to go, unless he's kissed and made up with Glasner. I'd love to know what was said between them. That
he's still training with the academy, so it hasn't happened yet. He's back at Palace training with the academy still.
Yeah, Edouard, the links between him and Celtic, him going back there, they do seem to be a bit on and off. Looking at the Celtic pages that I follow, and they're looking at other players. He had his moments, Edouard. I mean, the goal against Fulham when we beat him 1-0 sticks out. But so did Jeffrey Schlupp, his goal against Fulham. He's at Celtic. So, yeah, hopefully French Eddie will go there, because I don't actually think we need him. Because Nketiah, he had a couple of glaring misses, but actually he was beginning to come good when he was having that run of games. But I see Man United are interested in Mateta now.
Yeah,
it's just going to be ridiculous transfer talk. We're going to have so many shows where we talk about things that are absolute BS. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, we haven't even spoke about that. That's the thing. We haven't spoken about that because I don't think. Right now there isn't anything concrete about Mateta to Man United. He is also linked to AC Milan. Mateta's agent is working overtime. It's clear. He wants. Well, they're in negotiations with the football club over a new contract. We've heard about that, so I think it's just names being put out there to help them and their cause. The latest I saw was that he was linked to AC Milan, apparently for 30 million euros, which is absolute rubbish because then the striker market right now is absolutely terrible. So
why have all the prices I've seen for Mateta bid so low, given what you've just said?
Because it's his agent. That's the point. I'm not saying it's 100% his agent, but I'm thinking it's his agent pointing out these stories. These stories don't come out from thin cloud. They come out from somewhere, right? Either from the player, the agent, the football club, the other. Like, there's reason for putting these transfer stories out there. And I think the reason why these figures are low is because the agent is just playing these mind games. That's what I think. That's the thing that makes the most sense. Palace wouldn't put it out there. How does this help Palace that is linked to AC Milan for 30 million euros?
Maybe we should.
We won't sell it.
Maybe the best way to combat global warming is to stop internet bullshit about transfers, and traffic will go down, and these power stations to power AI and everything, and Google searches won't need so much because we just wait to see what happens when the shirt's in their hand.
But you know how that stops when people stop talking BS. As soon as people stop doing that, then there won't be any stories out there in the first place. These native get exactly.
Stop talking BS.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think that will be stopping us well on the internet. Internet right now is crazy.
I mean, let's add 13 years.
Let's add this up. Let's say we sold Jez for about 10 million pound, worst case scenario, right? Because we saw 10 million now last year. It's linked to 15, 20 million. How much is Edouard worth? To see how much money we can even get in this window of players that are not asked for. I think Edouard going to Leicester actually hurt us more than it helped us. Because if you're a football club looking at the situation, you went to Leicester, you got relegated and you couldn't get any game time. So how much do you think Edouard is worth in this current market? And you can also let us know in the chat as well.
Again, what did we get him for from Celtic?
Around like 15 million pounds.
So let's give it back for that again.
Do you think any club would be paying 50 million pounds for Edouard?
Strikers. You talked about strikers. They're at a premium.
Yeah, but they are a premium, but his stock
and he scored a lot of goals there. He was very good at Celtic.
He was. Maybe you can make that argument with Celtic. If I mean, Edouard hasn't really been linked with anyone, even though clearly we do want to sell him because Nketiah's at a football club. So it's hard to say who's really after him. But realistically, I'll be honest, I don't think we will be getting 15. I think that'll be incredible business. I think somewhere around the region of 7 to 10 million pounds.
I'm like animals comment in the chat there. You just say Leicester got relegated because they didn't play Edouard. That's 20 million, please. That's how good it is. That's why they went down.
Yeah, I guess it's all about perspective. But if anyone watched it, I don't think that's the reason why Leicester got relegated. Anyone watched Leicester last season. But yeah, I think that Leicester move actually kind of hurt us. And I think around 7 to 10 million pounds realistically. But let's just say the worst case scenario, right? We get 10 million for Jez, 7 for Edouard. Well, what else we got? Rob Holding, I think we're going to have to pay someone at this point rather than we getting money. Like, we're going to have to pay a transfer fee to someone to take Rob Holding off us. He's training with the academy level.
How did he get on with Sheffield United?
I don't know, I actually don't know. I can check how many games he's played when he went out there on loan. But I don't really remember that much Rob Holding. But I'm pretty sure he played a few games, though. I did see his name here and there getting mentioned.
More of a more of a Chilwell kind of figure. You know, he didn't play.
He played 18 games.
He was integral to that team, even though he was only a lone player. I'd like to get Chilwell if we could, but I don't know what's happening with the Chelsea thing and bringing players in because we're not even talking about that, are we? Who we bring in?
We don't really need to talk about that because we brought in Sosa, who's the left wing back, the other player. Yeah, he's the one that's going to be left wing back. So I think left wing back's pretty much sorted now. I don't think we'll be signing another one. Otherwise, we'll have 3 at the football club. So I think that position sorted. But he actually played 11 games. Sorry, he played 18 games in total, 5 for Premier League 2 Division 1, which is of course at Palace. But he played 11 games in the Championship and has 1 assist. So yeah, played a decent amount of games, I guess, 11 games. But Rob Holding, I mean, how much is genuinely Rob Holding worth right now?
Anything we can get.
Like, I'm not going to even put Rob Holding there as any price. I'm just keeping Jez at, let's say, 10, worst case. Edward at 7, worst case. And then Ahamada. He came on, he played in a preseason game against Millwall. But he's been one which I don't think is going to work out. And especially in the position that he plays in, we're pretty much stacked in midfield. And, clearly Glasner didn't rate him last season as well. So I think Ahamada could be leaving a football club. Any other players that could be leaving this summer?
Planger's gone, hasn't he?
Yeah, Plange is gone. That's 3. I mean, I don't think we've got any money for Luke Plange. That didn't work out.
The ones you got to think about is I read today that Wharton wants to stay for at least another year before he goes on elsewhere. But he's tied down to quite a long contracts anyway, so it'd take quite a lot of money to get rid of him. Eza, keep hearing about Arsenal. That's blowing hot and cold. Could he go? They're his childhood club. But he's won the FA Cup, where we are in a European competition. One would hope that he would like to, all of these players that are being linked with a move out would think, actually, I'd like to continue with this project, with the Glasner project. And I think that Glasner is going to be really, really key to who stays. But I also think that Parish is going to be really, really key for if Glasner stays. And that's the thing that worries me.
Well, we kind of spoke about that earlier on in terms of, are we doing enough? Are we upset at the football club about the lack of incomings? Yeah. Surely Glasner will understand the position that we're in. I'm not really worried about ambition and Glasner leaving because of this, because, I mean, everyone can see. We don't know. We don't know what competition we're in. So,
but we know how upset Glasner was. And again,
he had a valid reason last year.
Out of our hands, but we know how upset he was at how late the business was done in the last window.
And he had a point then, because first of all, there was a lot of players out on international duty. And we had players come back 2 weeks before the season started. Right now, Eze and all of the internationals are back at the football club, which is good. So we don't really have that problem. And yeah, we were slow. There were no excuses last year. And I was very upset at the football club about it, because we waited all window. And then, we signed Kamada early on and Riyadh. And then afterwards, we decided to take a little summer break and went very slow. So I understood Glasner 100%. And we saw it. We started the season very slow. And then after 9 games, we slowly kicked on and on and on. And we ended up winning our first trophy and ended the season good. But when it comes down to this window, I think it's different. I don't think it's a similar situation. I don't know how upset. I think Glasner has a right to be upset. I think we all do, especially. But I think it's more with UEFA. That's how I feel anyways right now. More with UEFA rather than Steve Parish and the board about not bringing in players because of the...
Well, that's the thing. It's the typical Palace thing. It's never boring in the off-season, is it? I mean, even if you leave it to the last minute and Tony Pullis leaving lastminute.com 2 days or a day before the season starts. So it's never a dull moment, but I just wish we could have a summer where things were kind of calm, because they never ever are. Is that like it with every club, or is it? Or am I just noticing more because Palace are my team, or are we just shit for it?
Well, look at Arsenal. They've been after the striker Gyökeres for how long? They started to sign him. There's been news reporters outside his house picturing that he's got removals companies at his house over in Portugal. He's come to Arsenal. It still hasn't happened. So Arsenal fans are saying the similar thing. Man United fans were complaining about Mbeumo because they were linked with him since the season's ended, and they literally just announced him today. So it took a while. So I think other clubs do have similar problems, but I don't really focus on other clubs. I've always had this stance that I don't really care about what, I don't know, Brentford do or these clubs do. Everyone has their own circumstances.
Well, Brentford are doing their best to go down next year, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. I don't know what they're cooking over there, but yeah, they saw them Mbeumo. They've got rid of Thomas Frank. I don't know what they're going to do, but they got a decent amount of money. We'll see what happens with them. But what my point is, I don't really look at other football clubs and say, all right, that's we should be happy because we didn't sign any players because, I don't know, Newcastle hasn't signed any players or Brentford. I don't care about that. I care about my football club. And my football club in this situation is different to everyone else's because of our particular situation with UEFA and I'm not talking about just a competition. The most important thing with transfers is when it comes down to money. And there is a difference between playing in the Conference League and Europa League in terms of what you can earn. So it comes down to that for me in terms of my thinking. So I'm not really fussed about all the other football clubs.
I wonder if the HF are holding fire on their TIFO for the Charity Shield, waiting for the decision before deciding on what they're going to have, or whether it will just be something completely different.
I think for the Community Shield, it would be nice to see a gesture towards Jota, because I think it's more about Liverpool than Palace on that day, in all honesty. So I wouldn't be surprised if there is anything to do with Liverpool and Jota. But remember, there's a TIFO against Forest. They've announced that. And I think that TIFO would be the one to look forward to. I don't know what they will do. I'll be surprised, but I don't know, of course, if there's a TIFO regarding UEFA situation in the Community Shield game. I don't think that would be the case.
We don't know about the HF actually going over to Switzerland, any other demonstrations.
They were meant to. Well, from what I saw on Twitter, I don't know how many people, I don't know who's going, when are they going for protests, but they were meant to. That's what I saw after the latest protests. But end of the day, I mean, let me get that clip. I think Patrick sent it to me on the chat. I think Patrick's watching as well. But if you haven't already done so, people, let's hit the like button. There's over 100 of you watching it live and a lot of you watching on replay. We've hit 150, over 150 for the past 3 streams. So let's see if we can target that once again. So if you haven't already done so, please hit the like button. But yeah, I think this UEFA situation has gone so messy. I'm going to find the clip. I'm going to play it. Hopefully there shouldn't be nothing copyrighted. It's from a podcast. And then yeah, we can see how ridiculous UEFA are when it comes to making decisions. But yeah, it's crazy because literally in a month's time today, Nick, if we're in a Conference League, we got our first European game. Because I don't know if you know, but the Conference League, you don't automatically enter it. There's a playoff round. So there is that. That'll be so typical of Palace. Apparently today there was I saw on X. Apparently we have a 98% chance of qualifying for the next round. And you know, Palace, that 2%, that 2% will probably hit us. But apparently we have one of the best chances the best chance of qualifying for the next round out of all the teams participating in the Conference League. So yeah, we'll see the draw about that on the 4th. But yeah, this clip is just loading now.
I know Palace are the favourites if they're in it, or one of the favourites.
Well, yeah, we are. Well,
I mean, it depends. Are we going to get Kazakhstan, or are we going to get Poland or Germany? That's what it means.
We've got 2 games. I mean, we've got a home game and an away game. I think the first game, because we're seeded, will be away from home, which is probably better for us to get out of the way. But yeah, so exactly, God knows, because the teams in the Conference League, they just vary from all kinds. 98% chance though, that scares me alone, because nothing is as smoothly as that when it comes down to Palace. But yeah, actually, you know what? I don't need to play the clip. I was already put it in the chat, which I'll read. He literally put it word for word, I think. This is what the UEFA president, Chefrin, has said on multi-club ownership. He didn't say this week or last week. I think he said this
2022.
A year or 2 years ago. Don't correct.
23.
Was it 22-23?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is what he said. There are clubs where we pretend it's not the same owner because it is the same owner. I will not tell you which, but you can guess on multi-club ownership. So this is the UEFA president saying this about how many? 3 years ago?
Yeah, something like that.
They've said it themselves. Like we pretend that the same owner. So why? So I mean, it's ridiculous. How can you do this? How can you do this? And the funny thing is, we haven't really broke any of the rules. Forget the email stuff. The multi-club ownership thing is absolute BS when it comes down to Palace. We don't.
No, but Forest and Botafogo have bought players off Leon so that they can pay their debts off. It's still. I watched a video today. It was 35 minutes long. It's either HLTC or HITC. It's a very, very gets into everything, and it's just, dear, I'm going to swear, but the whole thing is fucking ridiculous when you look at the hypocrisy, the double standards. and the sheer ridiculousness of what's involved in the fact that we might be kicked out of the Europa League because we've got somebody who isn't there anymore and hasn't got anything or ever had anything to do with the running of our club, is in the same competition as somebody who's finished in a higher league place but isn't that good because they didn't actually win the cup, eighth. It's pushing a bit. We've always said that. But we'll be pushed into a competition where even bigger owners within our club, we might play one of their teams, but that's all right.
That's I just have to laugh. you have to laugh. I look, we will find out sooner rather than later, but hopefully Palace do also play this, play the clip to Cass as well, saying what on earth is going on? Like, is it one rule for another? And of course, the latest story before today was that Palace want the full disclosure of communications between Forest and UEFA. So it seems like there might have been a leak there, which Palace think can play for them as well. But it's just annoying. It is just annoying. David saying, I'm just getting fed up with hearing about the thing that's annoying me is that our transfer business has been held up with players leaving and coming in. Mark and Ebbs might hinge on us getting Europa. Yeah.
That's it. That's what it boils down to, D. That and Steve Parish knowing whether he's got double the budget that he thought he might have had with Conference and Europa. And the difference between us getting Thursday nights and loads of games on a Sunday where there's no trains, or getting a few Saturday games here and there. That's punters.
Yeah. David's saying, I have a feeling it won't get to Kaz, and I think he said this in the last stream as well. I think it will get to Kaz. I don't think UEFA will overturn it now because they clearly made this decision thinking that they've got a point. But yeah, it's just so ironic that the guy who, for that reason, we're not going to be participating in a competition, doesn't have a say in Lyon and doesn't have a say in Palace anymore. It's just so ironic that it's like, I'm not going to blame him for everything, of course, but we didn't benefit from this multi-club ownership. And it's funny how Forest benefit more from John Textor than we do, because John Textor's football clubs always do business with Forest, whether that's Botafogo or Lyon. So it's just, and what's the club? Which club is taking our place? Forest.
Yeah, and the most ridiculous thing is the Forest guy that's put his shares in a blind trust and has no control over the team, and we've all heard this, but running onto the pitch to remonstrate with the manager is no controlling interest whatsoever. No, none at all.
It is ridiculous. But
it's Kafka-esque. You might have to look that up.
Yeah, I will do. I do have to look that up. Let me just quickly post this now. If you have any questions, put a Q in a dot before it. If there's any questions, we'll go through them before we wrap up. If you haven't already done so, please hit the like button and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Of course, the big goal is 10,000. We're about less than 4,000 now away from it. So slowly approaching there. Thank you for your support. If there's any questions, put them through right now. And then
if I was you, D, I'd go for the 7,500 before the 10,000.
That's a big goal, though. I said 10,000. That's a big goal. Yeah, there's little goals along the way as well, of course. That's the big goal. Would you rather keep Eddie or Eddie? What a question. Nketiah, of course. But hopefully we get a bit of money for
French Eddie or English Eddie?
Yeah, French Eddie or English Eddie. Can you sell your shares if you're on a blind trust? I don't think you can. And that was a point Parish was saying, like, we couldn't force him to put his shares in a blind trust back in before March reverse, because he's been actively looking to sell his shares in a football club. So it's just, the whole situation just done. What transfer business do you still think we need to depend on ins and outs? I think regardless of what happens, we need, I'm talking about players leaving and coming. Like right now, in this particular moment of time, we need another centre-back. We do. We need one more centre-back, even if Gay's staying at the football club, if he ain't. Because...
Well, even though you got Riyad and Lerma, Lerma's best at centre-back, man. I think
he is, but he's not a centre-back.
Doesn't matter. If he's playing better there than he's in defensive midfield, playing there.
So you'd rather keep Lerma as a centre-back option than to get an actual other centre-back?
I think he's good enough to be a centre-back.
Yeah, I think he is as well. But he's a midfielder.
and we got Riyadh.
So
And
you don't think we need another centre back?
slot in there. We've got, we maybe need another one, but yeah.
I think we need another centre back. I'd rather have an actual centre back than use Lerman there if injuries go against us.
It's the whole injuries thing, isn't it? And you look at teams that win stuff. The teams that win stuff are the teams that haven't got many injuries.
Yeah, exactly. And teams that win stuff, they've got squad depth, which that's what I'd rather have as well. I would rather have Lerman midfield because we saw it last year. I mean, Decore is coming back now, but when will he be fit and ready to play? I'd rather look. We're playing in Europe as well. Europe, FA Cup, League Cup is an extra competition. I'd rather go and get another centre back. Riyadh is out till next year. I'd rather have players in that position and potentially a centre back which can take over from Mark when he does eventually leave. Because Mark, I don't think will be leaving. I don't know. I actually don't know. Could he leave this summer? He could do, but I don't think Palace want to lose him for free as well. So he could end up leaving if it's not this summer in January. So it'd be nice to have a centre back in right now in case that happens over in January. So yeah, I think another centre back, left wing back, we brought in Sosa. So I think we don't have to talk about that. Goalie, we brought in Benitez. That's sorted as well. Right wing back, do you think Corpora is good enough to push next season for Munoz, or do you think we need another pro there with a European competition?
He's been on the bench a few times, hasn't he? And again, if we're playing a Kazakhstan team, then perhaps yes, not being disrespectful to teams from Eastern Europe, sort of edging into Central Europe. So again, it's entirely dependent on if we're in UEFA and do we want to really go for that at what cost will it be? Because we can't be going for everything, and that's another thing we've got to think about. But we'll talk about that once we know what competition we're in. But it's difficult to fight on so many different fronts. You've only got to look at what happened to Burnley the year that they were in the Europa League. They just fell apart, didn't they? Just because of the sheer amount of games.
Yeah, that's why you need the players. That's why, for me, that's why I'd like to get another centre back in, to be fair, because of the amount of games. Injuries will happen. It would be amazing if they don't, but it will happen. But regardless of injuries happen or not, we just need another centre back cover. Because right now, technically, with Riyadh being out injured, Klein is another centre back option. Like we're using it, Lerman, Klein. I mean, Lerman's good enough, but we might need Lerman midfield, depending on injuries. So I'd rather just get that centre back. Right wing back, I wouldn't be against that as well. But it depends on how Glasner views Corpora. Of course, he's been training with the first team for a while now, so time will tell. Centre mid, we're stacked. I don't think we need another midfielder. In all honesty, I get surprised when we get linked to a few. Another number 10 potentially, depending on what happens with Eze. So yeah, that could be.
What's happening with Abue? Do we know? Is he? Because was he at Hull? Did he come back from Hull?
No, God knows what's happening. I think it's done. I don't know if he's still at the football club. I guess he is still at the football club. I haven't seen a picture anywhere. I don't know if he's training with under 21s. Who is he training by himself? I have no clue. But he's had so many low moves now. It's unfortunate because when he did play under Vieira in like the preseason games, of course it's preseason, but you can still see something of the player. He looked technical. He looked exciting, and you could see why he was linked to Man United before he came to Palace. But
the other thing we need,
he hasn't worked out for him.
So the other thing we need to think about when we think about bringing players in is what are the players that are out of contract at the end of this upcoming season, because they're the ones you want to fill in without having to panic buy when you know they're off on a free transfer or whatever. So there's always that to think of. So maybe when I'm on holiday tomorrow, I'll have a look at the contracts and have a think about those positions there that might need to be filled as well. Right, when's the window shut? Is it in the season this time again, or is it before
in the season? Starts? Yeah, it should be September, early September, late August. But it can change in terms of the actual particular date. Where I'll look at it right now on Monday, the 1st of September. Apparently at 7 p.m. That's early.
That means you'll have to start the show at 1 p.m.
Yeah. normally shots are like 11 p.m., 7 p.m.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. That's the earliest. I've never.
Do you think people were complaining? Because I always wondered why they could have a transfer deadline window whilst games were going on at the same time.
Well, they were talking
Maybe
about
they've
that.
done that. Stop that.
They were talking about potentially shutting the window before the games actually start. Well, before the season starts, but it just didn't happen. So yeah, it's a bit weird. It makes sense logically to have a window, then let it shut before the season actually happens. But then if that was going to happen with Palace, imagine the season shut, let's say in how many weeks, like 2-3 weeks, we'll all be here panicking. And we'll be like, what on earth is going on? Is it enough? Is it not enough? So I guess this time is actually helping us out, having the...
I remember the days when there weren't windows and a player could be plucked from you at any given moment in time.
I wasn't alive around them times, but that just sounds scary. Can you imagine losing Eze middle of November, December?
Yeah, but can you imagine getting a player in at any time?
Yeah, that just sounds chaotic, but it also sounds exciting as well.
It wasn't as chaotic as the window.
Is it? Yeah, well, I guess in the summer, then what must, I guess teams were a bit more relaxed in the summer because there's no rush.
Yeah.
How was it? Yeah. I don't know. I prefer the window. Realistically, I prefer the window to be shut before the games start because it makes the most amount of sense. Before the season starts, let the window be shut and let's see what happens with that. But 1st of September. Last few questions before we wrap up. Do you think Mateta goes to Liverpool? No, I don't, because Ekitike is literally going to Liverpool. So I don't think that's going to be happening. I don't think Palace want to sell Mateta. And also any news on the Europa League situation, no other updates. Hopefully we'll find out within the next week or so. I don't know if it's 10 working days. I don't know if it's just 10 days from when we received the letter. But yeah, sooner rather than later, we have to find out before the 4th of August. So I'm pretty sure Palace today onwards are working on the CAS appeal. But yeah, look, if you have enjoyed the show, please hit the like button and subscribe. As I've said, we'll be here updating on all the latest bit of news. If you're just joining us now, go to the start of the show. We'll talk about the European situation in a bit more detail and how it impacts our transfer business, as well as potential departures from the football club, which we haven't spoke about as much. Thank you to Nick and everyone else that's joined us live. Leave down your thoughts in the comment section down below after the video ends. And until next time, up the Palace.
Up the Palace.